Hello, everyone. Hello, my name is Sharice Johnson Moore. I am your hope builder, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Authors Excerpt Sunday, where we give the author the exposure that they need. Want to tell the world about your book? You can appear here. My name is Sharice Johnson Moore, your hope builder, lifting you out of your sorrow by guiding you to see the Christ within through scripture and practical applications. Welcome to Author's Excerpt Sunday. And today we have a special guest. His name is Mr. Brian W. Smith. Hello, Mr. Smith. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Sharice. How are you?
I'm blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. Well, Mr. Bryan has this very experienced life. Mr. Bryan is the award winning best selling author of 37 novels and screenplays. His novels have appeared on numerous bestsellers lists, Dallas Morning News, Amazon, Target, retail stores, and others. He has also ghostwritten 20 novels, memoirs, and nonfiction books for other authors. He's also signed to Simon and Schuster, and that was in 2011. Mr. Bryan is the founder, president of Script Repository. It is a company that specializes in advertising and adapting novels to screenplays. For more information, go to www.screenrepository.com. Along with writing novels and screenplays, he finds himself and he does for himself and others. He is an adjacent professor of creative writing and screenwriting at Collins College, Plano, Texas. Brian's educational background includes Master of Business Administration, Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration, and Bachelor's of Science in Social Sciences. Brian is a native of New Orleans, Louisiana, and currently resides in McKinney, Texas. Hello, Mr. Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm honored to have you here today on Authors Excerpt Sunday. I wanted to, uh, what is it like to have that many books that you've written under yourself and for others? How does that feel?
It feels good. I mean, it's been a long journey. It feels it's gratifying
Mhm.
to be able to last this long in this industry because it's a tough industry. It's tough.
Okay.
I mean, it takes there's an old saying it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. You
Okay.
know,
So what got you started into writing mystery novels?
quite frankly, I just didn't see enough black mystery writers out there. You have
Okay.
Walter Mosley, who writes the Easy Rawlins series.
Mm-hmm.
You have James Patterson writes the Alex Cross series, but it's
Mm-hmm.
about a black detective, but James Patterson is a white man.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Yes.
I back in 2012 when I started the series, Sleepy Called a Mystery series, I
Yes.
thought I had already written, I guess, about 7 or 8 novels, and
Mm-hmm.
I just felt it was time to do something a little different. I still write contemporary fiction, but
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was important for me to travel down a road that not many other people was traveling.
Yes, sir.
Go against the grain, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Everybody
sir.
else is going left. I like to go right.
Yes. So what got you it what brought on this thing about your ghostwriting for others? What was your catalyst for that?
Um, I was asked to do it. Um, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago.
Hmm.
Someone asked me, they had a book idea, and they asked me to write it. They had the idea, but they weren't. This person wasn't a writer.
Okay.
So I just wrote the book,
Hmm.
and then I put out there that I ghost wrote a book, and
Oh,
before I knew it, um,
you
people were
had
just
all these
knocking on the door.
offers.
People
Hmm.
were just
All
knocking
these
on the
offers.
door, and it's to the point now where I don't have to advertise it, but I ghostwrite about. At this point, I've cut back, especially since I started writing screenplays. But
Hmm.
this year, I've already ghostwritten 3 novels for other people.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, this thing about the screenwriting,
Hmm.
how did that come about? The screenwriting.
Um, I would get asked a lot about my books being movies, and
Hmm.
I have a lot of friends in this industry. Some are screenwriters,
Hmm.
and they would often tell me, Brian, you could do this.
Yes.
You could do this. So I taught myself how to write screenplays, took some classes,
Hmm.
and the rest is history. And once I became comfortable with it and felt I knew what I was doing,
Yes.
um, I started a company called the Script Repository
Okay.
um,
Yes.
in 2021.
Hmm.
And since we opened in 2021,
Yes.
written 20, um, adapted 20 novels for authors to screenplays. And,
Oh,
and
okay.
those novels have already, 3 of those screenplays have gone on to be optioned to become movies.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So,
So, what advice would you give to someone if they wanted to convert their book to a screenplay? What advice would you give them?
well, if you don't want to hire someone like myself in the script repository, then you need to
Mhm.
write screenplays.
Mhm.
It's a totally different craft. It's totally
Yes.
different. It's totally different from writing novels.
Yes.
Like anything, you need to study your craft.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
I mean, people can you can take a stab at it, but you need to study it. And there's enough classes out there, uh,
Hmm.
YouTube tutorials. You can do it yourself, but
Yes.
it takes time. And it's one thing to write a script,
Yes.
but you want to write a script that is going to be picked up by producers. So,
Yeah.
what I'm saying,
Yes.
I tell people all the time, I've driven a lot of cars. That doesn't make me a mechanic. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes, sir.
because you can do something doesn't mean you're going to do it right.
Yes, sir.
So there's a lot of competition out there. So I mean,
Hmm.
if you don't want to do it yourself, if you don't want to take the time to learn the craft because you're still trying to learn the craft of writing a novel, and
Hmm.
you don't want the headaches of trying to learn a second craft, then
Yes.
go to www.scriptrepository.com and
Yes, sir.
we'll take care of it. In 90 days, scripts are done,
Mhm.
the adaptation is done. Not only do I adapt the novel to a screenplay, but I write the treatment so they can be pitched to producers. And I also
Oh,
provide, we're gonna start providing a list of producers and showrunners that you can pitch your work to.
oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I hope my audience of authors are listening
Mhm.
because this is some good information here. Now we're going to get into this topic of this new book. It is entitled Voodoo, a Sleepy Carter Mystery,
Mhm.
number 6.
Mhm.
So, um, the synopsis of this book is, it is. You want to give us the backdrop of the synopsis for this book?
Yeah. So the Sleepy Carter series is about a New Orleans detective who,
Yes.
the backstory is this: he is a New Orleans detective. He's the most famous detective in the history of the city's police department.
Okay.
And one night he gets drunk and he makes a wrong turn down a one-way street, and it
Oh.
causes a car that's coming toward him to swerve and crash.
Hmm.
In that car is an elderly couple.
Okay.
They die. It's 3
Mm-hmm.
in the morning. He
Mm-hmm.
panics and he flees the scene. 2 days
Mm-hmm.
later, Hurricane Katrina comes through New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
and his guilt is taking over him. He's depressed.
Yes.
So he
Mm-hmm.
decides to use the flood waters as an excuse to just disappear. So the
Mm-hmm.
assumption by the police department is that their most famous detective drowned, the way a lot of people did in Hurricane Katrina. So
Yes.
for 10 years, he becomes a homeless man. He's living and he's hiding in plain sight, grows a
Mm-hmm.
beard, no one recognizes him. He's
Okay.
depressed, etc. So what happens is after 10 years, he decides he's going to come clean and he's going to confess what he did to the daughter of the couple that died. The problem is
Um.
that daughter is now a police detective.
Okay.
So what happened,
Mm-hmm.
to make a long story short, what he decides to do is rather than confess what he did, she's the only female detective in the New Orleans Police Department.
Yes.
Um, she recognizes him when he approaches her as the man whose picture is all over the walls at her job because he's a
Mm-hmm.
legend. And she's going
Yes.
to tell people that he's alive because everyone thinks he's dead. And
Mm-hmm.
he strikes a deal with her that if she doesn't tell anyone he's alive,
Yes.
he will help her solve her cases.
Oh, okay.
And to make sure that he doesn't disappear and become homeless again, in her backyard is a garage that's her dad's old man cave.
Oh, okay.
He now lives in the man cave behind the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like an apartment. She
Yes.
brings home her cases and he mentors her and helps her solve them. She takes them back and she looks like the hero. She gets what
Okay.
she wants, which is to
Uh-huh.
promotion, and
Yes.
he pays off what he feels is a debt that he owes to her. She
Okay.
still doesn't know he's the man who caused her parents to die. She has no clue.
Mm,
And
okay.
that's the backdrop of the Sleepy Caught and Missing series. Now
Okay.
every book in the series has a New Orleans theme because I give you a little history lesson about New Orleans. The first book was
Yes.
called The Audubon Park Murder. The second book was
Yes.
called A Murder in the Quarters. The third
Okay.
book was called Passe Blanc, which is passing for white. That's a big thing in New Orleans.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the fourth book is called Coffee, Beignets, and Murder.
Okay.
The fifth book is called The Mardi Gras Murders. And
Uh-huh.
the sixth book just came out last week, and it's called
Okay.
Voodoo.
Okay.
And
All right.
that is how we get here today, which we're talking about book number 6 in the
Yes.
Sleepy Caught, which is has been adapted and is being pitched in Hollywood to become a television series.
Okay. So, who do you think is going to pick up this book for to make it a movie?
I don't know. So the character I wrote a movie. I co-wrote a movie called
Mm-hmm.
and Premonition comes out this December.
Okay.
And in the movie,
Yes.
we decide to make the Sleepy Carter character have a cameo appearance.
Okay.
Although it's not a Sleepy Carter book, it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
movie, and there's some detectives, and they're having problems catching a serial killer. So they
Okay.
call the most experienced detective that they know and decide to
Uh-huh.
introduce the Sleepy Carter character in this movie. And in this movie, Sleepy Carter is being played by the legendary actor Bill Duke from
Oh.
Car Wash, Predator, um,
Okay.
back in the day. Bill Duke, Menace to
Uh-huh.
Society. Bill Duke,
Yeah. Yeah.
he'll be playing Sleepy Carter.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh, got my spidey
Yeah.
senses tingling now.
Hmm.
So, is it possible that you could read us an excerpt out of Voodoo?
Yeah. I'll read you an excerpt of Voodoo. So
Yes.
once again, he serves as this detective, Lizzie Silverman.
Mm-hmm.
She's 28, 29 years old. She's a young
Mm-hmm.
detective. She's still considered a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she's a woman, and these men
Yes.
give her a hard time. So
Mm-hmm.
Sleepy is he's her secret mentor, her secret
Okay.
weapon. And
Okay.
they can't understand how this rookie is solving all these cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in
Yes.
this case, a man, a man is murdered,
Yes.
and he's left at outside of St. Louis Cemetery in New Orleans,
Okay.
cemetery number one. And in New Orleans, that is where
Yes.
Marie Laveau, the voodoo
Oh,
queen, you may have heard of her, you may not, but in New Orleans, the woman who was considered the voodoo queen of New Orleans back in the 1800s is buried in St. Louis Cemetery, where this guy's
okay.
body is found with his throat slashed and what's called a gris-gris around his neck. So, as I
Yes.
said, every book gives you not only a whodunit mystery, but a history lesson on New Orleans.
Yes,
So,
sir. Yes, sir.
with that as the backdrop, Lizzie brings home this case
Yes.
and she presents it to Sleepy, and she thinks that she has found the killer. And he proceeds to tell her why she's wrong. She is the wrong person, and she needs to keep looking. And that's what I'm about to
Okay.
read you right here. And it gives
Okay.
you a window into their mentor mentee sort of relationship. He's
Yes, sir.
almost like a father figure at this point. So here it goes. I don't know who killed the victim, but I know it wasn't this kid. Sleepy. I spent 3 hours interrogating the kid and compiling the evidence. You just spent 3 minutes looking at some pictures and you're telling me he's not the guy.
Mhm.
Sleepy grabbed the praline candy and took a bite. Uh huh. Well, I think you're wrong this time. I have the evidence. Oh, really?
Mhm.
Well, hotshot, explain to me how and why a 5'6" left-handed man who's fleeing a scene would pause to square up with a 6'2" man when and then choose to slice his attacker's throat by reaching across his body to start the cut at the attacker's left ear. Also,
Mhm.
I need to know how the 5'6" man could generate enough leverage from a standstill position to lodge the 4-inch blade of a switchblade knife into the man's neck and create a wound deep and long. Lizzie appeared
Mhm.
flustered. Unable to provide answers, she tried deflecting. How do you know he isn't right handed? If he's right handed, then the slashing motion from the victim's left ear makes sense. But I can tell from the photos of him that he's not right handed, Lizzie. Lizzie picked up the pictures. She stared at them
Mhm.
so hard that she started to squint.
Uh-huh.
Sleepy, these pictures don't show whether the man is left handed or right handed. Yes, they
Mhm.
do. Sleepy leaned back in his chair again. His t shirt with the rock and roll never suggests he likes that kind of music. I could see from
Mhm.
his hair to his shoes that he's certainly going for the rocker look. The fact that he
Mhm.
plays guitar in a band is the icing on the cake for me. Lizzie's
Mhm.
face contorted like she'd bitten into a lemon. How do you know
Mhm.
he plays guitar in a band, Sleepy?
Uh-huh.
When people first start playing the guitar, they often allow calluses to grow on their fingertips so that they can condition their fingers to play for the long run. Look at this
Yes.
fingerprint card. Notice how the prints from the index, middle, and ring finger card looks different from those same fingerprints on the left-hand card? That's
Mhm.
because when you play a left-handed guitar, the fingers on your left hand are protected by a pick, but the fingers on your
Mhm.
right hand are strumming the chords with no protection. Naturally,
Mhm.
a left-handed guitarist has more calluses on his right hand fingers. Sleepy pointed at the fingerprint card. The lack of details on the index, middle, and ring finger on this right hand fingerprint card are indicators that he's left handed. Sleepy
Mhm.
pointed at the praline candy Lizzie was about to take another bite of and then gestured for her to the tray, sit it on the tray. Lizzie reluctantly followed this command. Now, close your eyes and imagine you have a knife in your left hand, Lizzie. Sleepy watched Lizzie to make sure she closed her eyes. You're
Mhm.
approached by a robber. Are you going to reach across your body and start to slice from his left ear? No, Lizzie said defeatedly and opened her eyes. That wouldn't make sense. Let me tell you what else doesn't make sense, Lizzie. Sleepy held up a photo of the murder scene. Where's the blood? I mean, I know it rained last night and some of the blood could have been swashed away, but when a person's jugular vein is sliced, there should be a river of blood. There's blood on his neck and his chest, but he's not sitting in it. This man was killed at another location. So
Mhm.
Josh Fenton is telling the truth. That's obvious. But you've got a bigger problem on your hand. Sleepy grabbed another photo of the victim and stared at it. He walked over to a desk, pulled out a magnifying glass, and then returned to his seat. After studying the photo under the magnifying glass, he handed the glass to Lizzie. Take a look. What am I looking at? Sleepy started pecking on his laptop. Sleepy, what am I supposed to be looking at? Lizzie, you see that necklace he's wearing with the tiny leather pouch that is lying on his chest? Yeah, what about it? That's called a gree. What's a gree? In Africa, the gree was worn for good luck. But when Africans were kidnapped from their homelands and brought here to be slaves in the 17th and 18th century, the gree was worn for protection from evil. The slaves, especially those here in Louisiana who came from Haiti, brought the practice of hoodoo with them. Hoodoo? What's that? The original name of the melding of different African religious practices. The name changed to
Mhm.
voodoo over time. Anyway,
Mhm.
back to the gree. Slaves started wearing them for protection from evil spirits, primarily their slave owners. Sleepy
Mhm.
turned his laptop toward Lizzie. This is a ground view of the cemetery on Google Maps. Point to where the victim's body was found next to the wall. Lizzie pointed at the laptop screen. Right about here. Uh-huh. Sleepy clicked the mouse a few times to change the view from an up close angle to an overhead angle. He hovered the cursor over a white tomb. A caption appeared on the screen. Now read that caption. The tomb of Marie Laveau, Lizzie muttered. She leaned back and stared at Sleepy. Okay, I'll admit it. Sleepy smirked. Admit what? Lizzie rolled her eyes. As if you don't know. Sleepy shrugged. A long sigh escaped Lizzie's pressed lips. I don't know a damn thing about this Marie Laveau woman. Lizzie, I swear something wrong with you, whether or not you want to admit it. Sue me for being raised Jewish and taught to ignore anything or anyone associated with the word voodoo. Hmm. That's where this topic of discussion gets tricky. You see, to a segment of the population, Lizzie, the word voodoo, which originally was hoodoo, is a Haitian religion. It's rooted in the idea that everything is spirit. The primary goal of voodoo is to offer prayers and devotions to God in exchange for health, protection, and favor, much like every other religion known to man. To those who practice voodoo, the religion didn't get its negative stigma until it made its way to the United States via the slave trade, and slave owners denounced any religious practices rooted in Africa. Now,
Mhm.
I know you're wondering why that history is important. Well, young lady, I'll tell you why. Sleepy repositioned his glasses on his face. It's important because you can't walk into an investigation centered around this topic with the same dismissive attitude as the white men who sullied the religion and then expect cooperation from people who still believe in it. Just because a
Mhm.
topic is taboo to you, that doesn't mean it's taboo to others, especially here in Louisiana, which was the only slave state in the country that allowed slaves to fellowship and worship in their native customs. So you're saying slaves were allowed to practice voodoo? Allowed is a stretch. You've heard of Congo Square? Yeah, it's right there in Armstrong Park. Do you know its significance? Lizzie shook her head. She wasn't sure why she felt ashamed of her response, but she could tell from the disappointed look on Sleepy's face that her answer was unacceptable. Lizzie, Sleepy said in that annoyed tone Lizzie knew all too well. I know what you're going to say, Sleepy. I need to learn the city's history. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to say. Do you think you could be an effective detective in New York and not understand the nuances of the people who live in the various boroughs? Do you think you can be an effective detective in Los Angeles and not understand the gang culture and how certain groups operate? New Orleans is one of the most culture rich cities in this country. There are things done in this city that doesn't happen anywhere else. You must know your city's history to understand the reasons why people do the things they do. Congo Square is important because it's the only place in America where slaves were allowed to fellowship on Sunday to get together without interruption. They bartered, sang, danced, and practiced their native religion. Voodoo, Lizzie said, like a student who finally figured out the answer to a math problem. Yes, Lizzie,
Mhm.
voodoo. Sleepy walked over to the refrigerator and poured himself some more milk. This crime took place in the Tree Mead area, the Sixth Ward. Do you know why that's important? Lizzie shook her head. Sleepy sat down and continued. Lizzie, Tree Mead is the oldest African American neighborhood in the country. Sleepy paused when he noticed the perplexed look on her face. What I'm getting at is this. The crime happened in the heart of some very prominent black landmarks in this city, and I don't believe that's a coincidence. Your victim is a black man who lives in the Sixth Ward. He's wearing a gris-gris, a symbol rooted in the voodoo culture. If you had to pinpoint a starting point for the voodoo culture in New Orleans, it would be in the Sixth Ward, which is where Congo Square is located. Rather than dump the body on one of the side streets, the body is placed along that long spot where Marie Laveau's, the voodoo queen of New Orleans, tomb happens to be located on the other side of the wall. Lizzie scooched back on Sleepy's bed until her back touched the wall. She looked completely overwhelmed by Sleepy's history lesson. Look, I know it's a lot, Lizzie, but this wouldn't feel like information overload if you've taken the time to read some of the books that I've suggested you read over the past year. If you stay ready, I wouldn't have to get ready, Lizzie said, sounding like a child who had heard a parent's lecture one too many times. There is one good thing I've gleaned from these clues. What's that? You won't have to comb the city looking for answers to this murder. The voodoo connection plus the lack of blood at the scene suggests he was probably killed someplace nearby. I suspect the evidence will keep you searching for answers within the fourth, fifth, and sixth wards. That's less than a 10-mile radius. Yeah, but that's still a 10-mile stretch. Where should I start? I'll tell you, but there are three things you must do, Lizzie. I'm listening. First, you need to release the boy. He's not your killer. I will. Second, you need to put in for a week-long vacation that starts after you solve this case. It's time for you to recharge your batteries. Lizzie waved off his comment. I'm fine. No, you're not. You've yawned 3 times since you've been in here. Yawns are the equivalent to a car's check engine light. Your body is trying to let you know that you're fatigued. A fatigue detective cuts corners and overlooks obvious clues. Sleepy pointed at the case file. You have enough experience at this point that you should have noticed some of the things I pointed out about the crime scene. You missed them because you're tired. Sleepy, I just don't want to look like the newcomer who can't hang sense. You've already proved you can hang. Take some time off. Trust me, Hollis will understand. I will. You promise? I promise. Now tell me what's the third thing I need to do. The third thing you need to do is go see a lady named Guinevere Laveau. Lizzie wrote down the woman's name in her notepad. Guinevere Laveau is a descendant of Marie. So she claims, Sleepy said, not sounding convinced. And guess where she lives? In the Sixth Ward? Uh-huh. I believe she lives somewhere around Dumaine and North Villery Street. I'm assuming you believe she'll shed some light on this voodoo angle. Seems like the best place to start to me. Sleepy grabbed his half-eaten praline candy and took a bite. After all, she is the self-proclaimed new voodoo queen of New Orleans. So that's it.
Oh my goodness. Do you ever do have you ever turned any of your books into audiobooks?
Yeah, well, I haven't, but these books will be turned into audiobooks next year. And
Oh, okay.
I intend
Okay.
to read if I can get better at it. If not, I'll hire someone.
Uh-huh. Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Okay, because you have a marvelous voice for voiceover.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have a marvelous voice for voiceover. So please turn this book into an audio book. You
Mhm.
have a magnificent voice for the voiceover for it.
I
Plus,
received that. I received that. I it's something I've been putting off, but I've heard that enough. I think God's talking to me.
okay,
Mhm.
okay, okay.
I believe he uses people to get his points across, right?
Yes,
And
he does.
and you are just another person that has said that, and I hear you.
Amen. Amen.
Mhm.
So where do you have any future events coming up that you could tell
Yeah,
the audience?
yesterday. Well, so yesterday I was at the Tulasoma Book Fair here in Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It's held at the African American Museum here in Dallas, Texas every year. So I was doing that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
My next scheduled public appearance is in September, is in October at the Columbus Film Author and Photography Festival. It's going to be in
Okay.
Columbus, Ohio.
Uh-huh.
So that's
Okay.
where I'll be. That'll be October 15th. So I'll be in Columbus,
Okay.
Ohio, October 15th. That'll be the next public appearance. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Do you get a lot of those? A lot
Yeah,
of a lot of requests?
I'm already over. I'm all over the place.
I
But
see.
I'm usually at about well, things are starting to pick up. The pandemic shut a lot of things down. Before the pandemic, I was probably at 6 or 7 events a year.
Okay, okay.
So it's slowly starting to pick back up because for I mean from 2000, excuse me, 2022,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these events went on hiatus. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah,
They're starting
yeah, they did.
they're starting to come back alive, and I get the invites, and if my schedule allows me to come, then I'll go. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you when you go to these events, how does that how do I'm gonna ask this for authors. For authors that want to go to events, what is the best way for them to go about that, to set up their events?
Well, at this point in my career, I've been doing this for almost 18 years now. I am blessed that I get featured author invitations. So,
Mm-hmm.
so when I appear, the travel, the hotel, everything is paid for.
Okay. Yes,
Um,
sir.
but if you're starting out, you always
Mm-hmm.
want to contact the host of the event,
Event. Oh, okay.
and you
Yes, sir.
want to secure a table. Those tables can range from anywhere from 100 to usually $150.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've heard over the years people complain about the events. I think a lot of young authors spend too much time and too much money on things that don't make sense. So they do book release parties and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Business
Yeah.
101, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Okay.
I'd much rather I tell young authors all the time, instead of dropping $7,000 on a book release party, because if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to go to a party, you got to rent the venue, you got to buy food,
Yeah.
you got to buy the
Uh-huh.
outfit, you got to buy books
Mm-hmm.
to sell. Before
Yeah.
you know it, you're $1,000 in the red, and you haven't
Yeah.
even sold a book at the party, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I highly recommend authors do their research, find at least 2 or 3 events that have
Mm-hmm.
large um, followings and pretty decent attendance.
Yes.
Chop that $1,000 into 300 increments and spend $300 securing a table and a hotel to go to those events.
Yes, sir.
Not only will you be selling books, but you're meeting readers from across the country who take your books and your name back to
Mm-hmm.
their hometowns and their
Yes.
regions. And that's how you build a following and a brand. That is far
Oh,
more
okay.
productive than dropping $1,000 on a book release party, and
Mm-hmm.
half the people there are just there to eat and party anyway. They don't care about the books. It's a waste of time.
Okay.
So
Oh,
you contact the host of these events, you
yes,
find
sir.
out what the fee is, the table fee, and you go about the business of investing in yourself by going to at least 2 or 3 good events every year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Until you get to the point, and like I said, after a while, what ends up happening after you establish a brand and you start moving units and your name
Mm-hmm.
becomes more prominent, At some
Yes.
point, the host will start contacting you and asking you to be a featured author.
Oh,
And once
okay.
you get the featured author invite,
Uh-huh.
99 expenses associated with going to the event are
Uh-huh.
paid for.
Oh, okay. I have a viewer says Charles McCargo says great advice, and he also says sounding good.
Mhm.
I have we have with that it's very important that we as individuals, as authors, glean from others that are more experienced than us, because we don't, as I've been an author since 2017. I started
Mhm.
a book in 2015, and I wanted, you know, I understand that I don't know everything.
Mhm.
So with you appearing on the show, you have given me a point of view of how to handle my next published book, my next book that's come out. Instead of spending all that money and
Don't make
all that,
dollars. If it don't make dollars, it don't make
it's
sense.
yes, sir, yes,
Everything,
sir, yes,
everything. My background, as you said when you read my bio, so I was a businessman. I was doing the corporate America thing, and I have an MBA and all this other
sir.
stuff, right?
Yes,
So I
sir,
was doing the
yes,
business
sir.
thing. So when I came into this, I fashioned myself as a businessman who happens to write. I'm not a writer who owns a business. So everything that
Okay.
I did, I kept the bottom line, and I just tackled this business from a business perspective. Too many
Mm-hmm.
authors are so busy trying to be authors that they forget that this is a business.
Yeah.
Writing a book is half the battle.
It's getting it
Selling
out
the
there to
book,
the public and
selling the book
telling people
it's
is it.
harder to sell
Yeah.
the book than it is to write it. So
Yes.
everything you do and the moves you make need to be coordinated, and
Yeah.
they need to be a method for your madness. And I just see a lot of young
Yes.
authors just doing stuff because they think it's what they're supposed to do. And
Yeah.
I always tell people, I don't care, you know, to all the authors out there listening, I want you to identify your three most favorite authors. You go
Mm-hmm.
if you go in Barnes and Noble and you only got enough money to buy three books, most people
Mm-hmm.
have their go-to authors whose book they're going to buy, right? Because
Yes.
they know that they're going to get their money's worth.
Yes.
I'll bet you everything I own that if that for everyone who's listening, your top three favorite authors that you just
Yes.
love, you know what
Mm-hmm.
they all have in common, along with being successful and selling books and bestseller lists? What they all
Mm-hmm.
have in common more often than not, they don't do book release parties. Those of us
Mm-hmm.
who have been in this business for a minute, we chuckle because you can always tell someone who's just starting because
Mm-hmm.
they're more concerned with the look at me moments, and they don't spend enough time learning their craft and trying to sell a book. They like the photo
Um,
ops. This is not about photo ops. This is about building a brand. And
yes, sir.
you build a brand by getting your book in people's hands,
Yes, sir.
getting a well-written book in people's hands. So I encourage young authors, along with making sure that they don't waste money on foolishness.
Yes,
I'd rather
sir.
I'd rather see you only go to one big event and get a table and take the remainder of that money and go take some creative writing classes. Learn how to
Mm-hmm.
write because at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, that's really what's going to sustain you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you can't write, people are not going to buy your books. If they're poorly written, they're poorly edited, people are not going to buy
Yeah.
your books. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get off my
Mm-hmm.
soapbox, but I just felt compelled to say that
Oh, you
because
fine.
people need to hear um, it, it takes
The
a while.
truth.
The truth. I believe in telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
um,
sir.
yeah, make sure you do that.
Okay, Mr. Brian. So, Mr. Brian, it has been an honor and a pleasure
Hmm.
speaking with you this evening. And whenever you have anything that you want to come and tell the audience about, you are welcome back at any time. You're welcome here
I appreciate
anytime.
that. Before we go, let
Yeah.
me I want to do two things. First of all, I want to thank you
Oh, you're
for
welcome.
thinking enough of me to ask me to come on. I'm very humbled and I appreciate you. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Um, you just reach out to me if you ever have any questions, and,
Yes, sir.
and I got you. Um, as far as my books, if you want to get an autographed copy of my books, you
Yes,
need to
sir.
go to www.authorbrianwsmith.com. You can see it scrolling across the screen here. If
Yes,
you
sir.
are an author and you want your book adapted to a screenplay so that it can be pitched to Hollywood, I want you to go to my screenwriting website, which is the second website that pops up here, www.scriptrepository.com. Fill that
Yes.
out. My next book, I write mystery novels. I have a mystery series, but I also write standalone contemporary fiction novels. And my next
Okay.
standalone novel comes out on Christmas Day, and
Oh, okay.
it's called Leave.
Okay.
It's called
Let
Leave.
me, let me write that down.
Leave. It's about a squatter.
Uh-huh.
It's about a
Okay.
squatter. It's about a young man who connects with an old army buddy
Uh-huh.
and
Yes, sir.
invites this guy to his house for the weekend.
Okay.
And the guy won't leave. That's
Okay.
why the book is called Leave. And
Okay.
what you learn, along with having this thriller, this suspenseful book, you also
Mm-hmm.
learn a lot about squatters' rights and squatters' laws. And I think you'll be blown
Yeah.
away at the methods and the slick ways that this guy pretty much pushes these people out of their own house.
Mm.
So the book is called Leave. It comes out on Christmas
Okay.
Day. And like all my books, you'll be able to find it on Amazon in ebook and
Mm-hmm.
paperback. Or if you want an
Yes.
autographed copy, you can go to my website, which is scrolling across the screen, authorbrianwsmith.com.
Okay. All right, Mr. Brian. I have had a marvelous time. I know you have a busy schedule to tend to, right?
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
I thank you so much. And I want you and all of my audience members to have a very blessed day. And thank you for coming on Arthur's Excerpt Sunday. Y'all have a blessed day now. You hear? Bye, babies.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.